My name's Cole Smith. I'm a grade 12 student here. A dramatic global decrease in the ratio between working class people and retired people is imminent. So I was wondering what you are planning to do to combat this challenge and how you can sustain and even improve our economy over this period. Thanks.
That's a great question, and it's going to be extremely difficult if we keep on the same path that we are today. First thing we need to do is look within ourselves with the government and say, you know what, we bring in enough money to cover all the bills that go on. Since 2008, when all the economy started to collapse around us, you know, everybody in here probably all said to ourselves, you know what, we got to make ends meet. We got to stop what we're doing and just making sure that we can pay our bills at the end of the month. The only people that stopped doing that was the government. They kept spending money left, right, and center, and it doesn't really seem to matter. And for some of them, they still want to continue to do it. They want to add more budget or more deficit to our budget. So as we move forward, it's going to take us even longer to pay it all off. And in some cases, most of the people in here, including myself, probably won't be on this land because they still have a massive deficit. It's going to be very difficult, but it has to go back to all of us. We all have to work together so that way that we can get jobs, get everything rolling. But we have to do it economically proper. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary.
Thanks. We do have an aging demographic, which is going to pose challenges, particularly in our healthcare system. I think skills training will play an important role here. We need to make sure that the jobs of the future can be filled by local residents as opposed to bringing in temporary workers from foreign countries. Immigration is a very important part of sustaining our workforce, of enhancing our workforce. You know, the debate around taxes, the NDP, again, look at the NDP platform. Tax fairness is really an important issue here. Corporations, banks, high-income individuals need to be contributing more to our tax base in this province. It's a matter of fairness, and it won't slow down the rate of growth in the economy. It's a matter of fairness.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cole, for your question. That's obviously a really difficult one. It's something the entire planet faces. An aging population with fewer young people. How are the many retired people and seniors supposed to be supported by an increasingly small population of working people? How is that going to work? We see in places like Japan, where the aging population is growing more rapidly than just about anywhere else, that they're having difficulties making their budgets meet. In Canada, we're somehow much better off. Our population is dependent on immigration, and immigration eases that burden for us. But as a planet, we face that consequence. We face this problem. It's going to be difficult for us to just spend our way out of it. We're going to have solutions that are a little more complex than that. We're going to have productivity improvements. We're going to have to be able to do things better. We're going to have to do more with less. We're going to have to rely on our youth, the bright individuals who are going to be coming after us, to figure out ways to make us work better, where we can use the same resources with fewer people, because we're going to be supporting an increasingly aging population. And that's something that's a train that's coming right at us. We're going to have to think about it. So thanks for the question.
Thanks a lot, Cole, for the question, and I see the lineups are getting long. Wow. I think, I'm a small business owner, and I think that most of the people in this province actually work in small business and in the communities that we live in. Certainly, as time has gone on here on the Gulf Islands, and the many people that I've talked to about the local economies on the Gulf Islands, that there's been stress here. There's also stress on the Saanich Peninsula and stress in Greater Victoria region. And I think that one of the things that got me on this, sitting at this table, was the fact that when I went to both the Liberal finance minister and the opposition House leader and asked them, what are you going to do for our communities? As a councillor in Central Saanich, I asked them, what are you going to do for our communities? And they said, the cupboards are bare. I realized that we're actually in this situation where these parties want to fund their priorities, their platform, their agenda. They don't actually want to ask what our problems are here.
Thank you. All right, now we move on. Just remember, I can see the clock, you can't, but you have 30 seconds, and I am going to cut you off, so ask them fast. We'll start over here. Please identify yourself before you ask.
Okay, my name's Kurt Firestone. The question simply is, the Salt Spring Driftwood has reported about the shortage of family physicians on Salt Spring Island. VHA has announced that Lady Minto Emergency Room is overloaded and we should seek care other places. If you are elected MLA, what will you do to resolve the healthcare medical issue on our island?
Thank you. Gary.
Thanks for the question. Look, it comes back to funding. And if you look at the NDP platform, we are promising funding specifically allocated for restoration of rural healthcare services, which not just on Salt Spring, but throughout the province have been reduced, have been degraded. Communities throughout the province are actually losing their hospitals. I am concerned about doctors. We will be providing more funding for that, and our platform, unlike the Green platform, is fully costed, so we'll be telling you how we do that. It's so important. The other thing about the doctors is aside from the health considerations, it's a really important part of our economy to have doctors here, because otherwise people can't move here, won't move here, and can't stay here because they can't get those basic services available to them.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Kurt. Lady Minto Hospital is a fantastic facility. The kind of care that you get there versus the care you might receive in some of our bigger city hospitals is tremendous. You get care, you get attention, and you get it pretty quickly, much more so than you would in many of our big cities. So supporting community hospitals like this is an imperative. We have a problem attracting doctors here, or so the Vancouver Island Health Authority tells us. I think there's lots of doctors in other places that would be interested in small community service like this. What we really need is attention to this. We need to focus on it. We need to attract people. You've got two gentlemen here sitting at this table who are from this island. There can't be anyone more serious about getting medical services on this island for all of us here. Electing an MLA from your local neighborhood is really something that's going to have an impact, I think. You might want to consider that when you're considering your vote, because we've seen it before. Murray Cole brought us a national marine park and conservation area that we're developing in the Gulf Islands. That's because he was a local concerned MLA. Here you've got an opportunity to vote for somebody from Salt Spring who's got Salt Spring's interests at heart, and doctors on this island is something I can get behind.
Thank you for the question, Kurt. And I think that, in the Green Party platform, we do talk about providing increased and new training programs for healthcare professionals so that we are training more doctors. I think we should facilitate and recognize the qualification of foreign doctors, foreign trained doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals. I know that when I was getting a ride from the hotel in Vancouver to the ferry, that I was sitting in the car with a medical doctor who was trained elsewhere in the world, and he was driving my cab. I think that's unacceptable, the way that we have treated those folks. I think we should also provide payback incentives for graduating doctors. And we should encourage folks as they're coming out of school to be moving and working in rural communities like the Gulf Islands. And we should be providing incentives for them to be doing that. And this is a problem not just here, it's a problem on the Saanich Peninsula, and it's a problem in many communities right across the province.
Thank you.
Kurt, thanks for your question. I think the BC medical industry is the biggest onion that we've got. I think that it's got thousands and thousands and thousands of layers of problems in there. And I think that we have to start from the very scratch and say, we need to, gosh, it's a huge problem, there's no doubt. And this isn't the only community that is losing its physicians. I think what we have to do is we have to look at it all. We have to say to ourselves, how do we improve the system? How do we make it better? Because there's no reason in the world that nobody would not want to come to move to Salt Spring Island to be a doctor. Because this is one of the most beautiful places in British Columbia, without a doubt. So I think we have to start right from the top and look down and say, okay, every layer of every expense that we put into this, how do we improve it so we get better for not just for us here in the southern Gulf Islands, but also all of British Columbia.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, next question from this microphone.
I want to bring this back to BC Ferries, and I want to acknowledge the excellent question from, I forget your name, a student. And because she asked, as part of her question, sustainable solutions. Sustainable solutions is the other side of the coin for BC Ferries.
What's the question?
So my question is, considering that the federal... Okay. Are you aware of the social cost of driving for BC, that the BC government spends?
Thank you. Okay, we start. Steve.
Sorry, I'm aware of the social what?
Costs of driving.
The social cost of driving. Absolutely, there's a social cost of driving. Unfortunately, we live in a large province. We have disparate communities in many different parts of that province, and the best way for us to get around is by vehicle. If we densify our cities, as we have programs and proposals to do, such as in Vancouver and Victoria, we can reduce that. We can reduce it with transit too, but we're not going to be able to get around the fact that we have 1 million square kilometers of territory in British Columbia, and the best way to reach that is often by road. Many people here on Salt Spring, and we'd like to say that we have a small carbon footprint on Salt Spring, but we all have to drive from various ends of this island to get into the town center. It's not economical to run a bus every day, all through the hours of the day. You have to do it just occasionally because people aren't on them. So what can we do about that? We can try to reduce dependency. We can maybe take cars that use better fuel, but cars are the things we're going to have to work with for the moment, unfortunately. We have to make them better so that they have less impact on the environment, but
Thank you.
Even on this island, that's the case.
Yeah, there is a tremendous social and there's a tremendous environmental cost to people driving vehicles. And of course, we have started to see some other vehicles powered by other means as they started to proliferate in our communities, absolutely. In terms of ferries, I think our ferry system is a ferry based around moving vehicles and their passengers. And we haven't yet been able to break out of that mold where we can provide a ferry service that moves passengers, connects it to locations on Vancouver Island and as well on the Lower Mainland, and also connect with car share co-ops on the other side, just as an example, enhancing the transit on the other side so that there's a place, there's a way to get from where you end up to where you want to be. I think that the Green Party has always talked about shrinking our footprint, making sure that people, their products live and work closer to their goods. And I think that as we build complete communities, as Mr. Roberts has suggested,
thanks,
that's
the big... Scott.
This is certainly a question that, I bring it back not only to yourself, but to the whole community and the whole region. We need to get everybody involved in this type of a question. How do we improve it for everybody? Not just for the BC Ferries, but for all of us. How do we make it better, more economical for everything? So it's like, I talked about the layers in the medical system. It's the same thing with the BC Ferries, the same with all the crown corporations that we have. We need to start peeling them apart, go back into within the employment of them and ask the employees, what can we do? How can we improve it? Because they work there every day. I don't work for BC Ferries, but I see it. So if we can go back to the people and get their suggestions, it'd be amazing what we can get accomplished. Thank you.
Yeah. Miley, thanks for the question. Yes, I do understand the social costs of driving. That's why I established Salt Spring's first bus system. Stephen referred to the cost of that bus system. Our bus system costs the average household on Salt Spring $1 per month per household. So it's very affordable. I also established the Transportation Commission, which you see building sidewalks and pathways all across Salt Spring right now. So again, when you're considering who to vote for here, you have to think beyond rhetoric. You have to think of the personal commitment and the experience and the proven record. And I think on public transportation, I think I've demonstrated that. Provincially, again, look at the NDP platform where we're going to be reinvesting part of the carbon tax in public transit to address that issue.
Thank you. I wonder if I could ask you over there if you would mind if we took Nancy's question first, just so she doesn't have to stand for so long. Please go ahead, Nancy.
My name's Nancy Wigan, And I'm concerned about the open net pens for raising Atlantic salmon in the main migratory path of our wild Pacific salmon, and the loss of a vast number of not only our sockeye, but there's 5 different...
Thanks for the question, Nancy. Okay. I think we have it. Yeah.
And herring also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Nancy, and clearly, you know, as the son of a fisherman who fished in Saanich Inlet growing up as a kid and not having fish there anymore, there's a stark reality that my life and the effect that the loss of our wild salmon has on our life. We try to feed people salmon. We forget that salmon actually feed our environment. We cannot wait till 2020 to monitor this any longer. We actually need to get those salmon farms out of our oceans. We need to retrain the people working on those salmon farms, and we need to get back to working on our wild fish, our wild salmon, our wild Pacific salmon, and stop pretending like we can fix a problem that we have with our environment by just growing fish in pens. It hasn't worked in Europe, it's not working in BC, and we need to start getting real with ourselves on this situation.
Thank you.
We can't wait 7 more cycles.
Nancy, thank you for your question. I have to be honest, last Saturday night when this question was brought up, I didn't even know that we had fish farms around us. So there's my ignorance. But I will tell you though, since then, I have done a lot of investigating on this. And what I have found out is I am extremely now concerned about this. Just so you know, the fish farming industry is a major cash cow for these fish farmers. And since they've been doing this for the last 25 years, they have raped and pillaged, like Adam has said, all our Pacific salmon. And it is a major concern. The first thing we do need to do is get all of these fish farms out of our waters and onto the land. And I guarantee you, you can mark my words, the fish farmers will not want to do that because it is extremely expensive and not profitable. So if that's the case, then we need to eliminate them altogether because they are eliminating our Pacific salmon. And that's something we need to do. I agree with you.
Thank you. Gary.
The NDP supports the recommendations of the Cohen Commission on the so-called missing sockeye. And that's the most recent, most comprehensive research on the topic that's been done to date. So the NDP and myself personally support the recommendations of the Commission, which is to begin immediately monitoring the disease transfer from fish farms to wild stocks. The current regulatory regime for fish farms in British Columbia were initiated by the NDP. Yes, we do need to strengthen them. I worked for the Salmon Aquaculture Review in the 90s that established our current regulatory regime. I support moving the industry out of migratory areas and moving the industry to closed containment.
Thank you.
I think most of us up here agree. In fact, I think all 4 of us agree that the salmon of British Columbia are special and they're integral to the fabric of this community, this coastal community that we live in. There's no way we should endanger them. The Atlantic salmon farms are in open net beds in the ocean where they run the risk of intermingling with our own salmon fish stocks. If we took them on land, much as they do in aquaculture in other parts of the world, and did it on land, there would be no risk of them infiltrating and getting into our natural ecosystem. That's what we need to do, and I recommend we do it as quickly as possible because I don't want to risk that salmon. That's something that I've grown up with, you've grown up with, and it's vitally important to all of us. If there's any risk whatsoever that those Atlantic salmon farms are harming their salmon stocks and getting up our streams, then we have to take them out of the water immediately and get them on land where they won't cause that kind of damage.
Thank you. I'm just going to check in with the candidates. I'm looking at the lines and the time left. Are you guys okay if we go to 45 seconds per answer? Thank you.